श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिनी व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम् ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ नमः शिवाय 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 नमः पार्वतीपते हर हर महादेव सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की जय. So today we will see a short summary on this very short Prakarana Grantha, but it is a very loaded Prakarana Grantha called Rama Gita, which has 62 verses. And in these 62 verses, the entire essence of Vedanta or the vision of Upanishads is all compacted. Yeah. And this Rama Gita is actually, of course, a dialogue between Sri Rama and Lakshmana, but it appears in the Samvada narration between Parvati Devi and Mahadeva. And that appears in the Uttarakanda or the latter portion of the Adhyatma Ramayana, which appears in the Brahmanda Purana composed by Vedavyasacharya. Yeah? I find this Rama Gita Prakarana Grantha very similar to chapter 2 of the Bhagavad Gita. Remember, the chapter 2 of the Bhagavad Gita has the entire teaching. You know, it is the Gita is over with chapter 2. Because it begins with Arjuna's Sharanagati approaching the Guru, and then Sri Krishna begins the teachings and talks about Karma Yoga as Buddhi Yoga, and then Sankhya Yoga as Jnana Yoga, and then in the end we see the praise of Jnanam and also the Jnani as Sthita Prajna. So similar flow we find in the Rama Gita also. So this Rama Gita can be divided into 6 major topics. The first topic is the introduction, the context and the background. So the first 5 verses or so is about how Sri Lakshmana and why does he approach Sri Rama. So, you know, we remember that after the Pattabhishekam, when, Sri Rama is the king of Ayodhya, there is already Rama Rajya is established and there is a perfect administration there. But after quite a few number of years, there is a gossip amongst the washerman community which doubts the purity of Sita Devi. And so this painful decision is taken to leave Sita in the forest. And Lakshmana is instructed to do that. So after doing that, he is naturally very disturbed. And with a troubled mind, he approaches Sri Rama. He is unable to accept the turn of karma. Just like any one of us. Sometimes we also wonder at some life situation, and then we wonder how fate or destiny can be so cruel. And then we start wondering, is there a God that exists? And if God exists, how can God be so merciless and even cruel? What is the purpose of life? And why was I even born? So why do I deserve all this? So we also ask these similar questions, unable to accept certain very intense prarabdha life situation that one may go through. So Lakshmana also is unable to understand how, in contrast, Sri Rama is able to proceed on, as though nothing has happened with his royal duties. Whereas Mahadev tells Parvati Devi that, after the incident, Sri Rama is busy upholding the prestige of that royal lineage of the Ikshvaku dynasty, and performing his Rajadharma. So, this is the situation with which the Guru Upasadanam is done, the approaching of the Guru, because like Arjuna, Lakshmana is feeling utterly helpless, and he understands that there is a problem, but the problem isn't me. And I'm not going to blame anybody, blame even fate or destiny or the world, but there is something I need to know, and I'm not able to find a solution. And we find a similar situation at the end of chapter 1 of the Bhagavad Gita, when Arjuna is also helpless and says to Krishna in chapter 2, Karpunya dosho pahata svabhava prichhami tvam dharma sammudha chetaha yachyasyat nishchitam bruhi tanme bruhi shishyasteham shadimam tvam prapannam. O Krishna, I am tvam prapannam, surrendered to you. And Shadhi, Mom, teach me, because I am overwhelmed with compassion and helplessness. So when that helplessness comes alone, does one surrender? Surrender to the higher principle, surrender to the Guru, surrender to God, true surrender, and then alone the Guru appears in our life. So then after Lakshmana approaches, this is the gist of the topic number 1. How Lakshmana approaches Sri Rama and surrenders completely. So then from 6 to about 10 verses, Sri Rama presents the roadmap. The roadmap is, and he describes the fundamental problem. What is the fundamental universal problem afflicting the entire humanity? Ajnanam. Ajnanam is self-ignorance. The Shastra says we are all the space-like Atma, and nothing can affect it. Nothing can disturb that space-like awareness, but yet we are disturbed. That means there is self-ignorance. So that Ajnanam has led to Adhyasa. Adhyasa has led to Ahankara. Ahankara has led to Karta Bhokta Jiva. Karta Bhokta Jiva is engaged in karma. Karma bears karma phalam, papa punyam, and that necessitates janma. So the cycle of samsara, avidya, kama, karma, janma, the root cause is ajnanam, self-ignorance. And adhyasa is the mistaken notion we have. How do I conclude myself? And how do I perceive myself as a limited, insignificant, struggling, finite person, and struggling for satisfaction, some happiness, some peace in the world? This is because of the adhyasa, atma anatma mix-up, aviveka. And so the ahankara, the I notion, is placed in the anatma bodies. And as a result, there is this cycle of samsara. So Sri Rama tells Lakshmana, this is the fundamental problem afflicting the human mind. Yeah? Human mind, and who is then, eternally chasing these finite objects for the sake of pleasure and security. Then what is the solution? So just like a doctor will first diagnose the problem and come to the root cause of the disease, so too Sri Rama says Ajnanam is the root cause of Bhavas Roga. And then only can the treatment be prescribed. So what is the solution here? Jnanam. Jnanameva mokshaha. Gaining knowledge of Atma Tattvam. But the problem here is, one cannot directly jump to the Jnanam solution. And so the Shastra says, Tat Vijnanartham saha gurumeva vigachet shrotriyam brahmanishtam samitpanihi. There is a way to approach the Guru, and tat vidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattva darshinaha. So when we approach the Gurus, the wise ones, they will definitely give this upadesha, just as Lakshmana has done. But what has Lakshmana done before this? 14 years of exile period, Lakshmana has been engaged in tapas, bhakti, seva, satsanga with the sages. And all of that has matured his mind and made it steady and pure and very sensitive and humble, humility. And so, then now is the right time for the Shishya, when the Shishya is born, to approach the Guru. So Sri Rama says that this is why the Vedas prescribe the pravritti marga initially. Swadharma anushtanam and varnashrama vyavastha has to be followed, so that through the spirit of karma yoga and bhakti upasana routines, one can purify and steady one's mind. Then gaining the eligibility, jnana yogyata, sadhana chatushya sampannam, one approaches the Guru for the triple sadhana of Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam. Yeah? And we know Shravanam is the listening to the Tattvam of the Upanishads for a length of time by an Acharya, with Shraddha, of course, with an open, trusting mind, followed by Mananam. Mananam is the repeated reflections on the Tattvam. By doing Samshaya Nivritti, asking questions, discussing. And then finally, the most important is Nididhyasana. Nididhyasana is internalizing the Tattva. So initially, the Tattva will be some Asti Brahma. Some Paroksha Brahma Asti is the understanding. But then as we continue this triple sadhana of Jnana Yoga, what are we doing? We are bridging the gap. That Asti Brahma becomes Asmi Brahma. Now remember the missing 10th boy story? When 10 boys cross the river and then the leader cannot find the 10th person because he's not counted himself. And then a passerby comes and first he says, Asti, I see the missing boy for which you are lamenting. Don't worry, I will show you. Then he points his own finger to himself and says, you are that Tattvam Asi. So Asti has become Asmi. That is the result of this triple sadhana of Jnana Yoga. So very briefly from 6 to 11, Sri Rama presents the fundamental problem and the fundamental solution. Yeah? So it is very, very important. See, Tattvamasi, for a prepared mind, it is like fuel meeting fire. There is instant explosion. But how much time does it take to prepare the mind to gain the Samskrita Manas? And that is why Shastra says, let us not evade our duties, responsibilities, where we often feel stuck in a situation. Why do I have to do this? Why cannot I do what she or he is doing? Yeah, that is very, very important, not to be in a hurry, but to prepare the mind with the Swadharma Anushtanam values, attitudes, and then the Jnana will be very, very easily assimilated at the right moment. Yeah? Then what do we see? What is the third topic? The third topic is there is a side topic here which we saw. So there are these karmathas. Karmathas are those who advocate karma marga. They say Vedas have prescribed the karma marga also. So many rituals are there, sadhanas to get the sadhyas, objects. And of course, jnana kanda is also there. Let us combine both. What is the harm in that? Let us combine karma marga and jnana marga and pursue knowledge along with our karmas. And so there we found in 11 to 23, Sri Rama does the khandana. Khandana means banishes this. This is called the karma jnana samuchaya vada. The together, samuchaya means the reconciliation, the coexistence of both. And so Sri Rama clearly points out the fallacies. How can the same person pursue Prayo Marga and Shreyo Marga at the same time? Not possible. One cannot pursue karmas and pursue knowledge at the same time. Yeah? We're not talking about karma yogi. Karma yogi is already on the jnana marga. Yeah? We're talking about those who are desiring karmas to be fulfilled. And so Sri Rama says that they are diagonally opposite, viruddha svabhava, viruddha svabhavatvat, because they have different paths, different results, different destinations, different mindsets. The karmi, what does the karmi do? He wants to fulfill some finite result through the dharma, artha, kama pursuit. And whereas the mumukshu wants the infinite. So finite versus infinite. Then the karma marga is going to thicken and strengthen the karta bhokta jiva ahankara. Whereas the mumukshu, moksha pursuit will thin out or dilute the ahankara and make it badhita ahankara. So one will take one to enhance the dvaita buddhi. So the karakas will be strengthened, ego will be strengthened, vyavahara is going to become more intense, whereas the moksha marga will bring the vision of oneness. Oneness and seeking the one, amidst the variety and the diversity. And so in these verses, Sri Rama explains that they cannot coexist, but kramena. Yes, the Vedas talk about both karma marga and jnana marga, but when sequentially. Initially karma marga, pravritti marga, prayo marga, and then slowly there's a transition period, karma yoga, upasanas, and then one becomes a mumukshu. Then even the mumukshu has to make a jump and become a jignasu. That is, I have to know. Okay, there are many mumukshus in the world, but how many of them come to the shastra for moksha? So that is another quantum leap there. So the mumukshu has to become a jignasu and then devoting to shravanam, maranam, nididhyasanam of the content of the jnana kanda, then attaining jnanam, jnanameva moksha. So that was the third topic from 11 to 23. Then Sri Rama comes to the most core part of the Rama Gita is this. That is topic number 4. That is the central teaching of Vedanta from 24 onwards to 51. The bulk of Rama Gita. And here we find that this prakarana is Tattvam Asi Mahavakyam centered. So how to gain that knowledge? So that knowledge is again compressed or loaded into what is called as Mahavakyam. There are many Mahavakyams. What do they all say? Tattvam Asi. Tat Brahma, Jagat Karanam Brahma, Tvam Asi. So Ishvara, the cause of the entire Jagat, who maintains a Jagat and into which Jagat resolves, is equated into as the Jiva. As a Jiva. So then Sri Rama explains how Tattvamasi Mahavakya, we cannot take the surface meaning. How can that Sarvajnaha, Sarvashaktiman, Sarvavyapaka Ishvara be equal to me, who am occupying only a finite space, finite roles, and finite knowledge, skill, talents? So the Vachyartha is dropped, primary meaning. Then we have to take what? Lakshyartha. Lakshyartha is the implied meaning. Yeah? The hidden, essential meaning. So there Sri Rama explained what is called the Bhaga Tyaga Lakshana. That is, we have to do Tyaga of a Bhaga and retain the Satyam. So the Mithya has to be discarded, just like we discard the coconut shell, and the Satyam, like the sweet, tender coconut water, is retained. Yeah. How exactly to do that? By examining Tat and Tvam. So Tat is Jagat Karanam Brahma, and the Brahma has got these three prapanchas: causal state, subtle state, and gross state. And the equivalent: Ishvara, Antaryami, Hiranyagarbha, and Virat. And so too a jiva you take, no? A human jiva. A human jiva has got three avasthas: Jagrat, Sapna, Sushupti, and the three states as Vishwaha, Taijasaha, and Pragnyaha. And so when we apply the Bhagatyaga Lakshana or Jaha Lakshana method, then what is Mithya? That which is arriving and departing. That is which has attributes, which is subject to time, which comes and goes. So negating that cognitively on the side of Tat and on the side of Tvam, what are we left with in the equation? Left hand side is equal to right hand side. And that is the pure consciousness, invariable constant, or Nirguna Para Brahma. And so arriving at the essential identity is what Sri Rama does in this topic number 4, that is the Mahavakya Vichara. Soyam Devadatta was the example given. That Devadatta, which was my schoolmate, 20 years ago, is this Devadatta standing before me. Yeah? So just as we were immediately able to recognize the identity of our friend, meeting even after 20, 30 years, so too the essential components are equated. Yeah? And that is the Ajaha Amrityu Avikari Avyayam Atma. And so this is the Mahavakya Vichara, and here Sri Rama, in order to do Nididhyasanam on this Tattvam, borrows the Omkara Vichara from the Mandukya Upanishad. And that we saw is as this Omkara has got these three aksharas, Akara, Ukara, Makara. And if we connect or load each of the aksharas with each of the three prapanchas or with the three states, then as we chant Om, Om, sitting quietly in a place, undistracted, what can happen in the cognitive space of my mind? The gross states corresponding to Akara merges into Ukara, and then the subtle Ukara merges into the causal Makara, and the Makara fades or trails into the silence. And so that silence is the invariable. It was there before the Om chanting. It was there even while the Om is chanted, and it receives the Om as the Om sinks into the silence. So when we meditate Nididhyasanam, we want to dwell on the Tattvam in any form. We can take a Shabda, Ajaha, and keep dwelling upon that, or you take Om chanting, and then we arrive at the Tattvam. From the gross to the subtle. This is the Jiva Yatra. So Nididhyasanam is very, very important, because only then that Asti will become Asmi. And I will be able to internalize and own up that yes, indeed, Aparoksha Jnanam, Aham Brahma Asmi, which happens over time. Because the Viparita Bhavana, the deeply entrenched notions and conclusions we have about being the body, mind is so strong since lifetimes, and it requires a steady, repeated practice of Nididhyasanam. Yeah? Until I arrive at the understanding that I am the Adhishthanam, the substratum of the entire universe. Just as the ocean water, from the ocean water, waves arise, they are sustained and they sink back. And so too, Mayyeva Sakalam Jatam, Mayyeva Sarvam Pratishtitam, Mayyeva Sarvam Yati. The mantra from the Kaivalya Upanishad says, just as a dream is born of my mind, sustained by my mind, and returns and folds back into the mind, that Adhishthanam, that Tattvam I am. So this was covered in the 4th topic here. Then after that comes the 5th topic, which is the phalam. The phalam of Shravanam, Mananam, and Nididhyasanam. We've seen without phalam, nobody does anything. So what is the phalam here? Twofold phalam. One is Jivan Mukti. No? By the way, Jivan Mukti is accepted only in the Advaita Vedanta Parampara. Other philosophies, they don't accept. They, Vishishta Advaita, Advaita, they all feel, no, they cannot be Jivan Mukti. While being embodied, how can one be free? So it will happen only at a later time. But Shankaracharya refutes even that and says, no, if we have the Atma Anatma Viveka, then even as one is embodied, one is free from that I notion, I in the Anatma notion, and one can claim the Aham Brahma Asmi knowledge. Yeah? So that is the Jivan Muktihi. And Videha Muktihi, in course of time, when the Prarabdha ends, then because the cause is no more there, causal Sharira, the ignorance, self-ignorance is gone. By this Jnanam, Tattvamasi Mahavakya Jnanam, then there is no cause to produce further subtle and gross bodies. So all the subtle elements and the gross elements go back to their respective sources, the counterparts in nature, back to Maya, and what remains, remains. That is, it continues. There is only the original consciousness, OC. Tattvam remains, and that continues. It's like that example of the reflected sun in a water body, in a water pot, let's say. When the pot breaks, the prarabdha of the pot is over. Then what happens with the reflected sun? It goes back to the original sun. Yeah? And so similarly, the jnani continues no more as an individual, but is the all-pervading Tattvam Ishvara. So that is the Jnana Phalam. And of course, needless to say that there is the huge change of vision for the Jnani. The orientation is different, response is different. How the Jnani will never perceive the world as something that will give me Sukham or Dukham. No. All Sukham and Dukham are from me only. From my mind only. It is said, no, pain is inevitable as per the prarabdha. Prarabdha will surely bring some pain in some form, but sorrow, psychological pain is optional, can be avoided. That is why Krishna says, Ashocyanan Vashochastam Prajnavadanscha Bhashase. The wise na anushocanti, do not grieve for either departed or for those who are living. So there is no cause for grief for a jnani. Yeah? So that is why it is said in a jnani's world, nothing can go wrong. Because there is total self-acceptance, so there is no chaotic thinking. There is complete surrender. And so the jnani is anchored with that wisdom. And so having that kavacham what? There is no more fear, insecurity, anger, all this emotional dependence will not be there. And so the jnani becomes free from all this internal mala. Then we come to the last topic, and which is 58 to 62. Now, we see that this is the Phalashruti. Phalashruti means the Grantha Phalashruti, concluding verses, where Sri Rama tells Lakshmana that this Tattvamasi Mahavakya, you see how much preparation is needed for this sadhana chatushtaya. Sampannam is required, mumukshutvam has to be there, guru has to be there, punyam has to be there, continued shravanam, mananam, nididhyasanam has to be there. So it's not easy. There can be many distracting influences in our life. So then what to do? Then Sri Rama says, if you cannot worship or dwell upon that unmanifest avyayam nirakara swarupa of me, the real me, Rama says, you worship the saguna me. You worship the kalyana guna sampanna Bhagavan. Bhagavan who has bhagaha, the sixfold attributes, who's famous, who has attributes, gunas, who's got viryam, yashas, tejas, shrihi, vairagyam. And so you connect to your Ishtadevata through pujas and japa or seva, and have that Ekarupa Ishtadevata Bhakti, and that will expand to Vishwarupa Bhakti, and then finally you will come to the real me, Arupa Advaita Jnana Bhakti. So do not be in a hurry, and whatever suits you, you continue with that. Yeah. And so we find that we can combine both this, saguna worship, saguna dhyanam, that is called upasana, and nirguna dhyanam, which is actually contemplation, nididhyasanam. Both can be combined till, things will just drop off by themselves. Yeah. So even as we pursue knowledge, what's going to happen? Karma will also drop. Because for a mind that is intensely dispassionate, how can a dispassionate mind pursue karma? So the karma will fall away. And then even as we do Saguna Brahma, then we will find that even that gets simplified and simplified, and one has this conviction, indeed, that Asti has become Asmi. Tat Jagat Karanam Brahma Aham Asmi. Yeah? So that is this short and profound, Prakarana Grantha. And, Sri Rama, Puja Swamiji will always say, is very straight, comes to the point. And if you take a dancer, she'll be standing straight, showing Rama. But when she has to show Krishna, she'll be curved. So that is called the Tribhanga Swarupa of Krishna. So Krishna had to be very, very strategic, He had to play a few tricks to protect the Pandavas and lead them to victory. Yeah. And so because Krishna is beyond dharma, is a Gita Charya, whereas Rama had to show only the path of dharma, straight. And so we find that when we, hold on fast to dharma, then even the dharma in terms of our pursuit, our inclination, our attitude, everything changes, fine tunes our moksha pursuit, and then we become a full-fledged mokshu. And then by the grace of the Shastra, grace of Ishvara, grace of the Guru, we gain the knowledge, and which frees one from the Jnanam. Okay. So that was a short summary on the short Prakarana Grantha. And it is loaded, as you all told me, how intense and loaded it is. So, just as, a basic math student cannot understand an advanced economics, graduate college course. So there is a preparation. One need not feel disheartened. But combine the Saguna, Nirguna, Dhyanam, and then do what is to be done, the karmas, the duties and responsibilities in the spirit of Karma Yoga, and the upasanas have a deep connection to Ishtadevata, and then surely, all these great Mahans, Sri Rama, Sri Krishna, will guide us to the next step and next step until we reach the Param Dhamma. Okay. Om Tat Sat. Om स्वस्ति प्रजाभ्यः परिपालयन्तां न्यायेन मार्गेण महीमहीषाः गोब्राह्मणेभ्यः शुभमस्तु नित्यं लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु काले वर्षतु पर्जन्यः पृथिवी सस्यशालिनी देशोऽयं क्षोभरहितः ब्राह्मणाः सन्तु निर्भयाः सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमय ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ तत्सत्